Cheers, y'all. It's your guy, DJ Klyph, man. It's another episode of the Klyph Notes podcast. Thank you so much for downloading or streaming, however you check out your podcast. Yo, this one's going to be really, really good. I have an opportunity to sit down and chop it up with Mark Rainey of Cascade Record Pressing. We get into all kinds of good stuff, how he got started in the music industry, the growth of the company, and we get to talk about that 7-inch press and the history behind it. It's a really, really good episode, man. So get ready for this one. Sit back, relax. It's the Klyph Notes Podcast. Support for the Klyph Notes Podcast comes from Acapella Apparel, an idea born from a love of hip-hop, funk, and soul music and its surrounding cultures. With fashion being a huge visual part of the cultures, they've created expressive images to pay homage, invoke nostalgia, and showcase the elements that make up the lifestyle and cultures of these genres. Acapella, apparel for the music lifestyle. For more information, check out acapella.com. That's AKEPELE.com.
We should probably get
we're gonna get in.
Start official.
Yes, y'all. So it's your guy DJ Klyph, man, back at it again with another episode of the Klyph Notes Podcast. And once again, as you know, you can check out the Klyph Notes Podcast everywhere you listen to your podcast: Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and then of course you can just go to www.klyphnotes.com. This one has been a long time coming. I feel like I say that on every podcast, but it's just because I've been blessed to network with so many good people, and there's so many good people here in the Portland metro area. But really, really psyched about this one. This guy is. I'm really blessed that he took time out of his busy schedule to come and rock with me, because I know how busy he truly is. But go ahead and introduce yourself. Let them know who you are.
Hi, this is Mark Rainey from Cascade Record Pressing.
What's up, man?
Pleasure to be here, man.
Dude, it's funny because so right off top, I got to give a shout out to Steve. My guy Steve is the person who made the connection with us.
Oh yeah.
I was talking to Steve, and he was telling me about some work that he was doing, and when he told me he was working with a local vinyl manufacturer in the city, I was like, what?
Yeah, man. Steve Reuter.
Yeah.
He's run miles and miles of conduit at our facility. Yeah. I hate to think about where we'd be without him, man. Honestly.
It's crazy. Well, for people who aren't familiar, let them know what is Cascade, or who is Cascade Record Pressing.
Okay, well, Cascade Record Pressing is the Northwest's only fully automated vinyl record pressing plant. And we're the first one in the area, I think, since the early 80s. And we started coming up on 4 years ago, just with the mission to serve the Portland music community, the independent community, and, make, vinyl pressing services available into the region for the first time. I mean, as far as most people are concerned, ever.
Wow.
We've been really fortunate. I mean, it hasn't been easy, but I'm really grateful that the local community, music community, the creative folks have embraced us, and getting this off the ground, it's really been a wonderful thing.
That's what's up. That's what's up, man. Well, let's get into a little bit of history, man, in terms of you, Mark. What's your background, and when it comes to music and building into where you are now?
Man, that's a deep question for me. I've been obsessed with music probably since I was like 2 years old. I mean, it really goes back to just as a child being obsessed with expression. And that's something that I've carried with me my whole life. As a music fan, and then as I got a little older and I got on the East Coast, I got involved in the DIY punk scene, in the mid 80s, the late 80s, early 90s. And it's funny, I was just writing about this for the scene support thing that I did. But just talking about how, I was really fortunate, as a teenager to be in a peer group where I was seeing, people my age or maybe just a little bit older, playing in bands, booking shows, having radio shows, doing fanzines, doing all this stuff that, previously seemed like impossibilities,
right?
And, fortunately for me, I was exposed to this community of creative people that served as an example for me in my pursuits.
Yeah.
And that went from, just kind of being around as a fan, and then, college radio shows, jobs in music distribution, jobs at live venues. And then I ended up in California where I started a record label.
Okay.
TKO Records, which is a punk label I started in San Francisco. That's still going. We just celebrated our 20th year not too long ago.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's definitely, admittedly, it's kind of taken a back seat to the pressing plant now.
Yeah.
But, I'm still doing it. I've still got a handful of artists that I'm committed to and working with. And, so pretty much from that point that was the sort of first step of the journey that brought me here.
Okay.
I'm in a fortunate position as a guy running a pressing plant in that I feel that a lot of times I understand our customer because I have been our customer.
Right.
I've been on the other side of those phone calls and those orders. And, that's actually, it's come in very handy, especially when it's time to, where things maybe don't go according to plan, go out of schedule, and you got to come up with solutions.
Yeah.
I've got, thankfully, a couple decades of experience I can kind of draw upon, So, it doesn't always work out, but it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I guess that's the condensed version.
And how'd you go from what was the driver to take you from record label owner to I want to manufacture vinyl?
Well, a lot of it had kind of got tied up in my personal life with my wife and my two older kids, my daughters. About 5-6 years ago, coming to me and saying we want to move, we want to leave Southern California.
Yeah.
And so we looked at different options. Portland won out.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the time I was running my label. I also had a record store, and I had kind of pulled back on the label because the music industry, a lot of the models that had been in place when I came up had sort of gotten dismantled with digital. So, it wasn't a case of, hey, we're selling a lot of CDs to the chain stores and that's what's floating the boat. It was sort of, nobody really knew what was going on. And so I pulled back and had a store, and I had 4, 5, 6 years of just watching what the customer was doing at the store. I was staying involved, staying plugged in with, and, still involved with stuff that I love. But I also was going, okay, well, what are people actually spending money on in music? And, I remember when it was vinyl, but it was used vinyl and collectible.
Right.
And then I saw that needle go from used to new. Mm-hmm. And then when new started surpassing. And, all the while, I was talking to my, my connections, other label guys that I knew, label folks. And I was just hearing about what a nightmare it was to get vinyl made.
Okay.
Just because it was, the comeback and the interest in the format. Again, the plants were just all, they were totally clogged, saturated, I guess.
Yeah.
And, you couple that, those observations with coming up here and trying to figure out, all right, what am I going to do up here? And do I want to open another record store? But, the people that I talk to up here are like, man, Portland's got a lot of record stores.
Yeah.
We're kind of good with that. You can try if you want, but, it's not... not like it wasn't the situation like it was in Southern California where the record stores were closing. And that's sort of what drove me to go, okay, well, look, I've got people will still want to go to record stores. All the ones we've been going to for years are shutting down. I'm going to open one.
Yeah.
And that idea worked. So, but that wasn't the case here. And so, it was really through just sort of those observations I made and some long conversations with my good friend, Adam from Telegraph Mastering about, what was going on in Portland and what did Portland need?
Yeah.
And vinyl pressing was the obvious answer.
Wow.
And I wish it was as simple as that, just us deciding on it, and then that was it. That's really where the problems and the challenges started. It was like, okay, we're doing this.
Yeah.
And again, it all comes back to like what I was talking about before, community.
Yeah.
And access to, creative, resourceful, driven people.
Yeah.
And, again, I'm grateful to the people that I knew and the people that came together and helped me get this going.
No doubt.
And I think without them, forget it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I'd just be sitting around with ideas.
Well, and it's crazy, man. Like I'm a old head. And so I can remember when it was vinyl, it was vinyl and cassette. And I remember when CDs came on the scene and how the convenience of CDs and this, that, and the third. And but there was always that, and maybe in part because I'm a hip hop head, you know, there's nothing like vinyl. And like you said, you know, things went from you're looking for that your favorite record that you listened to when you were a kid. Now you're looking for it on vinyl because you just want to have it in your collection. And when the quote unquote resurgence came and people started releasing vinyl again, it was really sort of a specialty thing. And now it's turned into sort of a, vinyl's here again,
Oh, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
in a major way, which I think is cool. And to hear you describe that going into a situation where, like you said, plants were they were backlogged because everybody's trying to get stuff out.
Oh yeah, they weren't even picking up the phone. If they didn't already know you, you couldn't get stuff done.
So that had to feel like, I would imagine, electrifying, exciting, the thought that, okay, we're going to go into this situation and like everybody's going to be lining up at the door. And of course, things don't always work out that way, I would imagine.
Yeah, you know, I would say for the first couple years, it was very much like you're describing, like where it was just, we had, I don't know how many units booked out. I mean, 6-month turn times, which at the time was an improvement over what it had been.
Yeah.
Now, I will say in the last year or so, things have kind of stabilized because there's been a lot of changes. I mean, again, it's the music industry. Music industry's been volatile the last 10 years. It's not for the weak. It's not for the faint of heart now. It's and we've definitely, just in the short time I've been involved in the manufacturing side, I mean, we've seen the advent of new pressing equipment become available, and that's for the first time since the early 80s. Wow. So it's, the dynamics really changed. When we came online, Cascade was the 16th plant in North America.
It's crazy, man.
And I want to say at that time, just 16. That was, at that point, I think that the needs were being met. Now, since then, there's over 30 plants.
Wow.
Because of the new gear.
Okay.
So there's all kinds of people coming to this because some of the barriers for entry have been removed.
Okay.
Because prior to the new gear being available, you had to go out in the wild and find it, which is what we did.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's necessarily better or worse, but it's just, that was the only option.
Right.
Nobody was making this stuff. It's like, well, you want record presses, you better go find somebody who's got some and talk them into selling you some.
Yeah.
Now it's really just a matter of if you've got the money or the credit and you want to make records, you just have to send an email or make a phone call. And and again, for better or for worse, I don't know. It's definitely easier, but also with that ease, I think maybe you get some people who maybe are not as committed, or maybe for some reason they think this is going to be an easy buck.
Right.
You know what I mean? It gets a little .com-y, gold rushy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we're kind of we're sort of in the middle of a vinyl bubble.
Yeah.
Right now. And we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know if everyone's going to make it. I wish everybody luck, and I've got I have hope for everyone who's coming to this and wanted to be a part of this industry, I wish them the best, but just some of the stuff I've observed definitely, and I think people think I'm crazy for doing what I did.
Yeah.
And if I'm getting nervous, you see what's going on now, that should tell you something,
Well, it's interesting, Mark, because I got an email within the last week, I think, from Bandcamp. And Bandcamp now has a service where you can essentially do a crowdfunding situation. So you can put your stuff on Bandcamp, and then you get enough orders in, and you can actually press vinyl and do all of that through Bandcamp. And I read that and I thought, that's interesting. And it makes me want, and I didn't really look much into it. And shout out to Bandcamp, love Bandcamp.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that was one of the situations. Did a group come and say, okay, we're going to build a record pressing plant, and then find a connection, Bandcamp. They got a ton of music coming through. People are always looking for a way to get in and make it work. Do you, and I think you sort of answered this, feel any sort of pressure because there are so many plants popping up, or do you feel like, nah, man, we're good at what we do, I'm not worrying about what the next man's doing?
I'm definitely keeping an eye on what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to downplay that at all.
Yeah.
But as far as the pressure, I mean, we've been under pressure since we started because Cascade has 7 machines.
Yeah.
5 of them are operational right now.
Yeah.
We only run a single shift, 40-hour weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We're going up against plants, 30 presses, 50 presses. They're running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week,
Right.
3 shifts.
Right.
I mean, we're going up against plants that can do, what we make in a week, they can do in a day.
Yeah.
So, the pressure has always been there, and what our focus was and what we decided from day one that was going to get us through was quality.
Yes.
Because we're not going to be the fastest.
Yeah.
We're not going to be the biggest. We're
Right.
not going to be the cheapest.
Right.
But we can try to be the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and I think that now, especially like as you alluded to, with all these other options popping up, which is great, more options for the customer, the client, the artist,
Right.
the label, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
That's better.
Yeah.
That puts them in a more powerful position, and it puts the pressure on all of us that we better deliver. I mean, you're talking about, these days, going at a retail level, record shoppers going in and they're putting down $35, $40 sometimes for a new record, depending on if it's got all the bells and whistles, and they're doing that willingly.
Yeah.
And that's a value. That's something you don't want to. You need to honor that.
Mm-hmm.
You need to make sure that if they're spending that kind of money, that what you're giving them is worthy.
Yeah.
Of that.
Yeah.
And I mean we live by that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to. I mean that's what I when we're out there doing assembly or doing QC or whatever. I mean the first thing I say to anyone doing that job is put yourself in the shoes of like you just spent your money on this, and you're bringing it home and you're opening it up. I mean, it's got to look right.
Right.
There shouldn't be anything on there that's upsetting you.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Hold it to that standard.
Yeah.
And it's important. I mean, yeah, this is plastics manufacturing is what I'm doing now, and I'm new at plastics manufacturing, but I'm not new at music. Right. And we have to. Part of our identity as a company is that honoring the customer and our customer's customer too.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
right.
Making sure that we deliver. And I think that for the most part, we've been successful with that.
And I was gonna say, man, like having had an opportunity to come and tour the plant a few times actually, that's one of the things that always stood out. Like the way that you guys have things structured when it comes to quality control, it's obvious at every stage. I mean, seeing the actual manufacturing. I mean, seeing that hockey puck turn into, you know what I'm saying? Seeing the listening room where you're listening to every piece that comes off. I mean, everything that comes. I mean, it's just obvious that is a big part. And I feel like oftentimes you have, and as a smaller group, it gives you that opportunity to really spend that time making sure that everything that comes out of there represents Cascade in a positive way.
Oh yeah, you've got to if you're going to put your name on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's at least for me, it's just it's a point of pride. You know what I mean? It's being taking pride in what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm again proud and grateful for the team I've got assembled that are allowing us to do these things.
Yeah.
And then the folks from Portland and beyond who are supporting it.
Yeah, no doubt. So I got to give a couple of shout outs. We were talking to, we just ran into my folk from A Beat Happening and was doing some introductions, and they mentioned my guy Free Tillman who had his record manufactured at Cascade. Shout out to my folk over at Erst, the Last Artful Dodger, the project she did with Neil Von Talley. Bone Music was done at Cascade. I know that there are other folk that are in my community that have done stuff at Cascade, but I wonder, is there any sense still that folk don't realize that you're here? That the local music community doesn't?
I think almost every day.
Yeah.
Every day, if I anytime I bother to sort of put myself out there, if I'm at a record store or a music instrument store or something and talk to folks there's going to be people who, are music people who are involved, active, creative folks. I'm not talking about just record customers,
right?
Who a lot of times, we're almost 4 coming up on 5 years in. they still haven't heard it, you know? And, I think part of that is that we've just been sort of working on our craft. We haven't been, running a lot of ads, or broadcasting and, hitting it over the head,
right?
Obvious with it, maybe we need to. I don't
That's
know.
my job. That's my job.
Yeah, man. It's. I definitely that's important, but again, from day one, we didn't call the press in to talk about what we were doing until we could show them
right
what we were doing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other plants that have come online that have sort of gotten their name out there and their brand and stuff when they maybe haven't been making anything yet. That's their decision.
Right.
We definitely didn't want to do it that way.
Yeah.
So again, it was sort of, I guess we'll get to it eventually, but right now, we're making records, man.
That's what's up.
That's
what's up.
That's what we focus on. And just kind of let the work represent us. We really kind of we take our cues from RTI in Camarillo, California. That's sort of the original audiophile plant in the U.S. They were they're the ones who came up with virgin vinyl.
Oh, okay.
They're the ones that came up with 180 gram.
Okay.
They were the first that I'm aware of pressing plants. Back in the days when vinyl was king and vinyl was the dominant format.
Right.
And it really was quantity over quality, where you had these big, huge factories in the Midwest where there were 100 presses running and it was fully automated and no human being was even in the room.
Yeah.
And just churning them out.
Yeah.
They were, in that age, they were the ones who were like, hey, we're gonna produce the quality. You can go and you can go and to people who are just making the next widget, or whatever. You can come to us.
Right.
And we have a good relationship with those guys, and in a lot of ways they've mentored us and definitely sort of set the example that we try to follow.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's what's up, man. Chopping on my guy Mark Rainey, Cascade Record Pressing. So I want to take a little bit of a sidebar, and I always believe in giving props and give credit where credit is due. So I'm gonna publicly, Mark, say thank you for supporting supporting the local hip hop community and the things that we do with Mic Check. Shout out to Grace. It was so crazy, man. We were setting up for Mic Check one night, and Grace was in the building, and just went over to her. We started chopping it up. She wasn't familiar with Mic Check, told her what we were doing. She told me she works at Cascade, and I was like, oh, my guy, Mark. And man, you have been so gracious in supporting Mic Check in a very tangible way. And I just want to publicly say thank you, bro.
Thank you.
Because aside from supporting the local scene, obviously with manufacturing such good quality work, you're also supporting the scene in other ways. So I think, like I said, it's important to give people their flowers when they're alive to smell them. So I just want to say thank you for doing that, baby.
I'm happy to. I appreciate it. I mean, we really, I wish we could do more. Again, it's sort of one of those things of my to-do list of sort of the local outreach is very long. I want to get out, talk to the local schools and music programs in schools, reach out to them. I mean, it's Cascade is a business. It's how me and a lot of people feed our families. Yeah. But again, back to community.
Yeah.
Part of our mission and our identity is to serve the community, and that doesn't necessarily just have to be, through the manufacturing service. So I appreciate the opportunity, man.
No doubt. Speaking of support, I also got to give a quick shout out to my folk over at Acapella Apparel. Acapella has been a supporter of the Klyph Notes podcast for a minute, man, and I really appreciate what they do to help us continue to bring artists and individuals and community members like Mark to the podcast stage. So check them out, Acapella Apparel. It's AKEPELE.com. And get yourself some fresh gear for the summer. Okay, so I was gonna ask you before I turn the mics on if I could ask you this. So I'm just gonna ask. Okay. Can we talk about the 7-inch?
Yeah, we can talk about the 7-inch. Yeah.
So once again, man, shout out to my guy Steve. Yeah. So Steve was telling me like that joint is a beast, but like there's a story behind that press, like that particular press.
Oh yeah,
You got to tell that story, bro.
I mean, all the gear in the plant has got, because it's all stuff from the 70s. It's all got long storied histories in the music industry. Now, it's been about 2 years now. 2 years ago, we purchased an SMT 3600. So that's a SMT, and the 3600 is the automation that produces 2 7-inch records at the same time. We purchased it from this plant in Miami, Florida, and for a lot of the folks at the plant and yourself, and I think a lot of people out there, this press is really a sacred object. It's got a long storied history in the history of reggae music.
Yeah.
It used to belong to Joe Gibbs, famous producer of Blood and Fire. He's if you know dub reggae, you know who I'm talking about. And after Joe Gibbs sold it, he sold it to Coxsone Dodd, founder of Studio One. Again, another, Coxsone Dodd's on the Mount Rushmore of reggae.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a giant. Studio One is, it's like you're talking about the foundation of that whole genre.
Yeah.
So we're very fortunate to have that machine. It's got good vibes and good karma, good aura.
Yeah.
To have that machine in the building. The guys were actually out there working on it today.
Oh, nice.
And we've anyone who's come into orbit of that, who knows the people that I'm talking about, when they realize that they're in the presence of a machine that has made millions of reggae 45s, maybe possibly records they own in their own collection. I mean, it's a piece of history.
Yeah.
It's nothing short of that. It's funny because when we went out there to get that machine, we didn't realize that was the source. We thought it was coming from another Florida plant.
Oh, okay.
And again, I could get into that, but which again, a lot of times with this old gear, that's how it is. You think, you walk into a place thinking that you're going to be looking at, oh, this is the machine from this plant, and nope, the thing again. But so we have the holy arc of reggae vibrations. It's made its way out here to Portland. So I have a lot of friends who are serious reggae collectors, and they were flipping out when I told them that news. I mean, the control electrician who's working on it right now. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if he's going to listen to this or not, but I mean, I would suspect he's such a deep reggae head. He would probably pay me to work on it. We're paying him. But it wouldn't. I mean, I think he's just happy to be around it.
Yeah.
And and again, man, I mean, where would I be without people like that?
Right.
Who share the passion, and there's that devoted to music.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really, when you surround yourself with people like that, amazing things can happen.
No doubt. It's excited, man. Excited for things to line up properly, for the potential to start producing on that machine. I think it's just gonna be amazing. It's gonna be amazing when we think about Cascade record pressing and what you folk do. How would you describe it? So I'm an artist. I'm in a position now where maybe I've released a couple of joints and digitally, and maybe I've done some cassettes, and I wanna put something on vinyl, but I don't even know where to begin. I know that I like shopping for vinyl, going through the record store and this, that, and the third, but and I find out about Cascade record pressing right here in my backyard. Like what do you do? What can you offer? I want to put something on vinyl, but I don't know what I want to do.
Well, to somebody who's new to the process, and this happens a lot. Yeah. I mean, it's our duty to welcome them to it. You know what I mean? We're not going to get anywhere, dismissing somebody because, you don't even know how to, make a record. No. Yeah. The reason that we even get to have a plant is because new people are coming to the format. Right. Either as customers, artists, what have you. And again, it's our job to welcome them in. Yeah. And there is an education piece. Yeah. Yeah. So, for someone who's, they're not new to music, obviously they've made some music, but as far as turning this music into a piece of vinyl, we walk them through all the steps. We figure out, get them in touch with a mastering engineer who can actually, cut the lacquers and produce the actual masters.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, on the music side, we, at that point, we take care of the plating, produce the test pressings for them to approve, walk them through that whole process. If they're interested in, some degree of packaging, we've got vendors that we work with. We can get them set up, we can show them samples, show them examples of, different card stocks, different printing techniques, just really kind of acquaint them with all the options, I think on the packaging side, it helps if, maybe if they've seen something they like, they can bring in like a reference,
right.
Again, we're really fortunate. We work with a company down in LA, and I've actually worked with them as a label going back, 20 something years.
Yeah.
So I've got deep history with these people.
Yeah.
But yeah, they can anything gatefold, triple fold, glow in the dark varnish, embossed, whatever you can think of, they can make it.
That's what's up.
So it really, anyone coming to us, whether they just want to get, a piece of vinyl that's in a paper sleeve, and then they're going to do the packaging themselves, or they want to bring us some music and walk out with something that's, packaged, shrink wrapped, and ready to go on a store shelf. We can do it.
Nice.
We handle that full range.
Nice.
And it really comes down to, again, if it's somebody who's completely new to the process, acquainting them with the process, and then just mutually determining the level, how far they want to take this.
Right.
What's the need here?
Right.
Right. And then, we can provide. There's the stuff we do in house, and then if there's the stuff we have to outsource. Whatever it is, we can come up with a solution.
Yeah.
For what they're looking to do.
One of the cool things that I've seen you guys do, and I know that there's videos and video clips on the website cascaderecordpressing.com. As well as some YouTube and social media stuff that you folks have posted, but a lot of the specialty vinyl that you've done. So folk, see, man, I want to do something with some color in it or some different patterns and this, that, and the third. You guys handle that.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Just about. There's a few limitations, like we haven't figured out picture disc yet, and again, because we've got automated machines and not manual load machines, there's a certain few color effects we can't do.
Yeah.
But barring those, stock color, custom mix color, you want a smoke effect or a marble effect or splatter.
I know you've done clear because you
Clear,
did the bone music joint in clear from Arist.
Yeah, clear. Clear's one of the most popular. Seems like clear, white, and red are the most popular of the stock colors.
Okay.
We do a lot of those. But really, we're fortunate. One of the press operators, he's got a background in printing.
Yeah.
So he's fully immersed in like color theory.
Yeah. And
if you want to bring him the cover art and say, hey, can you match that? It's not going to be perfect.
Right.
But he'll. As close as you can get with mixing colored plastic.
Yeah.
He can do some amazing things,
That's pretty crazy.
And we're really kind of only, the limits, the customer's imagination in most cases, But with that said, while on the subject of colored vinyl, when you step away from black vinyl, you step away from audiophile.
Okay.
And those are the facts.
Okay.
So, I do make a point of letting people know, like, okay, so this is, if sound is the most important thing in this package, stick with black.
Got you. Got you.
The difference isn't that much depending on the program, the program material.
Yeah.
But for someone who's really going to scrutinize it and play it back on a real high end stereo and just be listening for all the flaws and everything, you just black vinyls. It's where it begins and ends. It's when you all that other stuff is. Again, I love it. I'm a record collector. I have all kinds of colored vinyl in my house. I'm not knocking it.
Right.
But
just know going in.
Just know that it's a gimmick.
Yeah. But that's good information again, because again, if you're that artist and I want to go this route and I don't know that, and I see it, I see my favorite artist just released, this specialty limited edition color vinyl. how would I know that? So I think that's good information to have.
Again, you got to think about it as, when you start, especially if you're doing like a mix or something,
right.
That's making the material less stable.
Got you.
Yeah. The big one is the glow in the dark vinyl.
Yeah.
Looks really cool.
Right.
But it can sound like you're frying bacon in the studio, or you're doing your set around a campfire, and there's pops and
yeah.
So just know
unless you're going for that sound.
It's cool. It's close, but it's like you've got phosphorus and radioactive material in there. It's not it's not gonna play it's not gonna replicate the sound as nice as just just the normal stuff.
No doubt. No doubt. Chopping up with Mark Rainey from Cascade Record Pressing. Okay, so here's a question I have for you. Some of my favorite producers creatively have done some pretty amazing things in flipping records, doing mashups, taking the the instrumentals from one artist and putting it with the acapellas from a different artist, and have just made some amazing tributes, and those are available online, obviously. And then I've seen where folk actually get that on vinyl, and you and I sort of touched on it when I made a visit one time. Like that's not really so cool, because the original artists aren't a part of that process at all.
Well, I guess it depends on the circumstances.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Like if and again, I'm not talking about the creative side of it,
right,
which I think is amazing. But when you're getting into the usage side,
right,
I think some artists might be a little more lenient than that, or maybe some DJs have done the homework and gone and gotten clearance or gotten permission or whatever.
Yeah.
But that definitely can get you into some murky legal territory.
Yeah.
And I don't know how strictly enforced they are these days, but I do remember. I remember a plant that I used to work with getting dinged, I think $100,000 for one unauthorized sample.
Yeah.
At one point.
Yeah.
So that's going back a little ways.
Yeah.
And it's possible that maybe some of the laws have changed. But as far as you definitely want to do your homework. Though here's the insider tip, though.
Okay.
For anybody out there, any of your folks out there that are listening, is that I could be telling on myself here, or telling the music industry here.
Right.
There are certain countries in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I think Italy is one that stands out. I don't know the situation if there's pressing plants in Italy.
Yeah.
But certain operations in Europe, their intellectual property laws are a little more liberal.
Oh, okay.
So it's conceivable that you could legally produce.
Got you.
Maybe something that maybe by the legal standards in America,
right,
maybe isn't gonna hold up. You can get it done in other places. Now, getting it into the country and all that stuff. I'm not a lawyer. I don't don't take my word for it and go out there. I don't want anybody getting in trouble.
Right.
But as far as you on the ethical side of it, I don't know, man. What bothers me is when somebody, if someone takes a song or composition that's not theirs, and says that it's theirs,
right,
or if somebody on the manufacturing side, if somebody takes a record that they are not under contract to make and just starts printing it up because it's selling,
right?
Like, I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
But there's, if it's something, someone's doing something creative, with it. I mean, I kind of side with the artist more.
Mm-hmm.
It's I've heard some crazy mashups that on YouTube or whatever that I think are great. They're mind blowing.
Yeah.
There's one with Super Freak by Rick James and Rainbow in the Dark, the heavy metal by Dio.
Yeah.
Put together.
Yeah.
And it it blows your mind. It's crazy. I've played it for people and this is the best thing I've ever heard. I'd love to have that on vinyl.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know, and you got to think too, especially with how volatile and uncertain the record industry's been. Those interests, those publishing companies that have control of compositions, they're clinging onto those for dear life now.
Right, absolutely.
Like
absolutely.
This is, I'd say probably now more than ever. They're gonna, be, if they're gonna be uptight about it, they'll be uptight about it. But that's a really interesting topic. Thankfully, we've never been put to the test on that. We've never encountered anyone that was, using samples or doing some kind of mashup where we thought that we were at risk. And again, as much I can sit on my high horse and talk about supporting the artist, but I can't do anything as a business owner to jeopardize myself, all my people's jobs, So I mean, we've got to, unfortunately, we've got to protect ourselves because you're talking about companies that could just snap their fingers and we'd be done.
Exactly.
Sue us out of existence, at the drop of a hat. So that's a whole, man. You could do a whole podcast. Just on that.
Because there, again, creatively, man, there's some amazing, like I said, some of my favorite producers on a regular basis just put out, especially tribute stuff, that they put out that sounds so great. And as a DJ, if I'm playing stuff digitally, it's really, really easy to grab that and be able to share that with a large audience. But that's not creating a physical and then turning around and selling that.
You're not selling.
So I think that's one of the things that makes a difference. Since you started Cascade, coming into Portland, well, not even necessarily coming into Portland, like manufacturing records, have there been any? I don't want to say bucket list because that sounds too grandiose, but have there been any artists or groups that you thought, man, I would love to press something with that artist, and it's come to fruition?
Oh, too many to list.
Oh, word.
I mean, we've been so lucky. I mean, it's the first record that we produced that we actually was a deliverable was from a Portland, really mainstay of sort of DIY underground punk and garage rock music, Dead Moon.
Okay. I've heard it. Yeah,
I've
heard it
around. Yeah, and that first record we did was a Dead Moon record.
Okay.
I mean, you really can't get more Portland do-it-yourself, Portland independent than that.
Yeah.
No, we've been very fortunate to work with. Again, I could go on and on about it, but there's still many, many more that I'd love to do stuff with. Either artists, labels, especially labels that I kind of identify as, also caring about quality.
Right.
You know what I mean? Those are kind of, so there's some that we're working with. There's some that, just the fact that I guess the ones I'm thinking of are mostly in sort of like current sort of heavy metal, but there's like a pocket of like these independent metal labels that have just always been vinyl labels. It's part of their identity. And that grouping's working with us. That says that's like a sort of a calling card thing for us, But I mean, it's I get excited about. There are the bucket list artists, but there's also the artists that I never heard until we're testing the stuff, and those blow my mind. And that's happening on a weekly basis.
So coming to Portland, did you know what existed here in terms of a music scene before you got here?
I had an idea, and I definitely had my contacts and people I work with, but I don't think I fully grasped just how deep and just how much variety there was. I mean, I knew it was independently minded. I knew I knew it had a strong musical identity. But I don't think I could have fathomed what I've actually learned being here. And that's just made it all the more, all the better. It's just sort of really kind of reinforced how this was the perfect place for us to come and do this.
No doubt. What's on the horizon for Cascade?
Well, let's see. We're adding more in-house services. Now that we've kind of stabilized and we feel that we've gotten the sort of standard 12-inch vinyl down, and we're happy with what we're delivering. We just added 180 gram.
Yeah.
So that was so for all the the audiophile folks, we are now offering 180.
So for folk who don't know, let them know the difference. Why is that
Okay.
significant?
Well, again, this is a hot topic of debate. 180 gram vinyl, you're just getting a heavier piece of plastic that's more durable. It's less likely to warp. As far as the difference in sound, there's some debate about that. But it's definitely a format that you've got a subset of the vinyl community is dedicated to it. You have certain labels, that's all they do. And, it's, it requires some modification of the machines. The mold profile is a little deeper. The stampers are shaped a little differently. The timing's different. You're dealing with more material. So we had to, and we wanted to make sure that we were producing 180 records that we were happy with before we went public with it. But we've achieved that. So we've converted one of our machines to 180.
Nice.
Beyond that, I think for the summertime, we're looking at offering 7-inch, which we touched upon before. We're really close. It's been a long, painstaking process. We definitely had to go out there and find a lot of parts for this machine, which wasn't easy. But I'm happy to say that we've just got to run the services and dial in a few of the controls, and we're there.
That's amazing, yo.
It's really happy for that. And then we've also a little bit over a year ago, we purchased a print shop that had gone out of business. We purchased the equipment. So we are, again, eventually going to add some degree of in-house printing, probably just for like labels. So,
nice.
So we're just trying to kind of draw in and take on, parts of the process that we aren't doing right now that we think we can reasonably achieve and do a good job at.
Right.
Something like, doing the electroplating or, doing jacket printing or something like that, the big format printing.
Right.
That's, again, you're talking about money and equipment that's not, easily accessible right now. It'd be nice.
Yeah.
But, I don't want to fall into the trap of trying to do too much and sort of do it all and do a mediocre job on a lot of things. We really just want to kind of hone in and be good at what we do and be comfortable with one thing before we add anything else. It's we'll get there. It's not a race.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what's helped you have the success that you've had thus far, is that you have, like you said, you've excelled at what you do good, and people know when they come to Cascade, they know what they're getting. They know that they're going to get good quality, which is dope.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and it's nice to hear it, though.
Yeah.
That's for you to say. Thank you.
Absolutely. Following Cascade on social media, I think it's Instagram, one of the cool, or maybe it's Twitter, I don't know, one of the cool things to see is Pizza Friday. Maybe you guys should start vinyl plates for the summer, you know what I'm saying, so people could put their pizza on.
Oh yeah, I wonder, to me though, it's like I'd rather just have have a record someone could listen to. I guess it's
depends on what you're into, right?
Yeah, man. But hey, anything. I mean, anything. I get happy. I mean, people. I'm just happy at all the attention the format's getting.
Yes.
I mean, there was that HBO show called Vinyl, and people ask me, "Did you watch that show? Or have you seen that show yet?" I'm like, "No, but I love the name."
Yeah.
Or anytime you see there's a TV show where there'll be the opening credits, and a lot of times now turntables are popping up.
Absolutely.
Or in ad campaigns. I mean, it's that all helps me.
Yeah.
Just because, again, like you talked about, just how I meet people almost every day that don't know we're here. I also meet people every day if they ask me what I do. Oh, they still make those?
Yeah.
Like the people still,
yeah.
There's folks out there who still think that's part of the past.
Right, right.
And, so anything that is raising the awareness is good.
Well, it's funny, Mark, because you mentioned earlier about a goal eventually, or getting to the place where you can work with some schools, and you think about it generationally, man. There are young people right now who are into music who may have only ever seen vinyl on a television show or in movie.
Oh,
and so to have an opportunity to educate folk on this is vinyl, this is the history of vinyl, this is how it's manufactured, this is the difference between when it sounds different when you listen to a record and when you listen over your computer or on an MP3 player over your phone. I mean, what an amazing opportunity to just to educate folk on something that's been a part of our lives forever. Well,
it's been great, and we've been fortunate. There's been a lot of school groups that have come through, and sometimes they're sort of the general class, and I might do something like I'll start the tour by breaking out iPhone and explain like this is data storage now,
right?
But this is how they store data, back in 1911 or whatever,
right.
But usually when it's a music class or a music group, I don't have to sell them on. They're already on board. And they're stoked to be there.
Yeah.
And that makes it a lot easier.
No doubt.
Because again, it's you touched upon this earlier. It still is very much a specialty item. I think it's not mass media. There's some people that maybe they're not that into music, or they if they're my philosophy is just be into music.
Yeah.
However you get your music is cool.
Right.
I don't really think that one format can claim that they're better than the other. Just as long as you've got the passion and the interest, that's of paramount importance.
Yeah.
But if you are interested, this is what we do.
Yeah.
And this is what we like. This is my preferred format to listen to.
Yeah.
And I think that works for a lot of different genres. More and more the people, the real diehard music fans, seem to be gravitating towards it.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
But if music's your thing, sound is your thing.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, you're gonna want to check out vinyl.
Have you guys done any spoken word or comedy stuff?
Yeah, we have actually.
Yeah.
Kill Rock Stars and a few other labels.
Shout out to Kill Rock Stars, my girl Portia, no doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, we love them, man. We've done some comedy for them. There was it seemed like there was a batch maybe like a year or two ago.
Yeah.
That we did. And they, and since then I think stuff comes through from time to time. But yeah, it's interesting to me too that's coming back. Because that's how I also am a fan of stand-up comedy, and that's originally how I listened to it.
Yeah.
Steve Martin, Richard Pryor, Bobcat Goldthwait, Monty Python, whatever.
Right.
I had those records too, and still do actually. So it's kind of cool for comedians to kind of they're kind of giving a nod to that era,
right?
As well. Bringing that back.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. That's what's up. My guy Mark Rainey, Cascade Record Pressing. So if we have some local, not even just local, but if we have labels, artists who are hearing this and are thinking, man, I really dig what I'm hearing in terms of what you guys do, and they want to get more information, or they want to connect and look into doing some work with Cascade, what's the easiest way to make that happen?
Just to contact us via the website, www.cascaderecordpressing.com. There's an email link there. We've got a responsive sales team of reps who do the follow up on that, and we're here for you. Anybody who needs to get records made, we'd love to talk to you. We'd love to help you out. If we can help you out, we'd love to steer you to someplace that can give you what you're looking for.
That's what's up, man. Look, so y'all know, if you listen to this and you know what I do, man. You know the people that I rock with, and that Cascade is definitely somebody that you should be messing with if you're doing music, man. And good people do good quality work, and they're local, and so that's three reasons right off top to check them out, man. Also check them out on social media, Cascade Record MFG, I believe, on Twitter. Actually, just go to the website, and then all the links are on the website, CascadeRecordPressing.com. Man, Mark, bruh, thank you, man. Thank you on so many different levels, man. I really appreciate you coming through and doing this, and excited to see see what happens next. All right, y'all. So that's it. Another episode of the Klyph Notes podcast. Once again, remember, you can check out the podcast everywhere you listen to your podcast: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, or you can go to www.klyphnotes.com. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, be sure to give it a 5-star rating and comment. If you rock with Alexa, you can just ask Alexa to enable the Klyph Notes podcast. Couple shout outs, man. Shout out to my folk at X-Ray FM for generously hosting the recording of the Klyph Notes podcast. Once again, shout out to Acapella Apparel for their support of the Klyph Notes podcast. And last but definitely never, ever, not least, my guy Theory Has It for doing the official theme song for the Klyph Notes podcast. All right, y'all. Until we have an opportunity to do it again, y'all be blessed. Peace.